Change of rhetoric, but the same tone. North Korea is now threatening to sink Japan and blast the U.S., quote, into ashes and darkness. This as reports reveal the rogue regime's September 3rd nuclear test may have been even more powerful than previously thought, with satellite images showing increased activity at the testing site. Possibly another detonation is in the works. Here to comment is Peter Brookes, Heritage Foundation senior fellow. Peter, I hear all these North Korean experts, one guy in particular, Andrei Lankov, saying that everybody underestimated the progress of both the missile and the nuclear program in the North Koreans. How could that be?
Well, because it's very difficult to know what's going on inside North Korea. It's a very tough intelligence target. And, David, this has been going on for many years. I've been following North Korea for many years. And when I was on the Hill many years ago, there was a thing called the Rumsfeld Commission back in the late 1990s that looked at this. And it turns out that because we don't have we have imperfect knowledge, that it's often these countries are able to move along faster than we expect they would.
So based, excuse me, Peter, but based on that, based on what we now know they are capable of and how badly we were prognosticating about how quickly they could do things, when will they be able to put a nuclear weapon on top of a missile and hit a target in, say, Japan?
I think they can already do that. You know, yeah, I think they can already do that, David. There's questions about longer distance flight because of the tremendous G-forces and vibrations and temperatures that a warhead has to withstand over great distances. I mean, a warhead in its terminal phase, an ICBM warhead in its terminal phase, is probably moving about 15,000 miles per hour. So that's the challenge. There's also accuracy issues. Japan is close. Guam, Hawaii, Alaska, the continental United States is much further away, so it's much more difficult. So the reliability of their missiles, the reliability of their warheads are still big questions, but we have to assume the worst.
Boy, that's bad news. Meanwhile, Russia is kicking off a week of war games with its last remaining Eastern European ally, Belarus. Many in the region are very worried, remembering that the Russian invasion of Crimea actually started as a war exercise. Peter, first of all, do we know how many troops are involved here? A lot of misreporting on this.
Yeah, very interesting. Russia's saying it's about 12,500, 12,700, which is interesting because they are under international agreement. They're required to allow observers if they exceed 13,000. So they're staying below that number. Now, the Pentagon and others think it's going to be about 100,000 Russian and Belarusian troops, which far exceeds that. So we'll have to see. You know, we're obviously watching it very closely with all our intelligence assets, but the Russians are probably not being quite straight with us on the numbers.
Well, you look at the map there, and you see that the people who are really worried are on the west side of that map. Of course, these are former Eastern European countries that were under the Soviet orbit. The name of the exercise is called Zapad 17. That means West 2017. That has these folks even more worried.
Sure. I mean, the Russians basically break up their exercises by the geographical area. Zapad, they do it about every 4 years. And this is obviously comes up when you're in Belarus and you're in Western Russia. You're up against Poland, Lithuania, the Baltic states. They're obviously very nervous. You pointed out what happened in 2014 with Crimea, but also back in 2008, the Russians had large exercises that led to the intervention in Georgia.
We just have time for yes or no, but for all the talk about Trump, and Russia, I'm thinking that the Russians would feel a lot more comfortable with a President Hillary Clinton than with a President Trump after what he did with the missiles in Syria. What do you think?
Well, you know, I think President Trump is, you know, been tough on Russia. He's not lifted the sanctions, and I think our Russia policy is moving in the right direction.
Peter Brookes from Heritage. Good to see you, Peter. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Melissa.
So growing